Hello, my name is Patricia Bueno. I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Let's learn together this week's memory verse, which is in Hebrews 11:31. By faith, the prostitute Rahab did not perish with those who did not believe when she had received the spies with peace. God bless you.
The story of the Gibeonites does not end with the deception they used to secure a covenant with Israel. From the oath sworn by the Israelite leaders in the name of God, Joshua faced the challenge of maintaining faithfulness to the commitment while not neglecting justice. This situation opens the way to a surprising lesson of grace that transcends time and shows us how God works even in the midst of human imperfections. In the ancient world, the value of an oath was sacred, for it was tied to the name of God. To break it meant discrediting the Lord before the nations. In this context, Joshua chose a solution that respected the seriousness of the covenant and at the same time, turned an apparent curse into an opportunity for blessing. The Gibeonites would not be destroyed, but their lives would be bound to service in the house of God. This story invites us to reflect on the grace of God, which surprises and makes its way even in the midst of human errors. What seemed like a stumbling block in Israel's history became a living testimony of how justice and mercy can walk together under divine direction. Welcome, my name is Augusto Palacios and this is Studying the Lesson. Thursday, October 9th. Amazing Grace. The oath made by Israel's leaders was irrevocable, for it had been made in the name of the Lord. Although the people wanted to punish the Gibeonites, they could not do so without betraying the character of God, who is faithful to His word. Here we learn that faithfulness to commitments, even when they appear disadvantageous, is part of the spiritual integrity of God's children. By confirming the covenant, Joshua prevented Israel from committing a greater error, profaning the Lord's name by breaking an oath. His decision shows us that obedience to God is not always easy or comfortable, but it is always the right path. Thus, what seemed like a stumbling block became a reminder of the value of keeping one's word under divine authority. The designation of the Gibeonites as woodcutters and water carriers for the house of God may seem like a punishment, but in reality, it was a disguised privilege. By being bound to the service of the sanctuary, the Gibeonites were integrated into Israel's religious life. From servants, they became collaborators in the sacred work, showing how God's grace turns consequences into opportunities for redemption. Over time, the history of Gibeon bore positive fruit. Instead of rebelling or betraying, they remained loyal to God's people. Even after the Babylonian exile, the Gibeonites were among those who helped rebuild Jerusalem. This fact reminds us that grace not only restores, but also produces lasting faithfulness in those who receive it with humility. This episode also raises a reflective question. What would have happened if the Gibeonites had come with sincerity like Rahab? We cannot know for sure, but we do understand that God's character is merciful and that His desire is never the destruction of the sinner, but repentance. Perhaps an open confession would have brought a different outcome, but even so, God honored their acknowledgement of His power. The key to the story is that God did not reject the Gibeonites' search for peace and their desire to abandon idolatry. Although their path was imperfect, their choice to recognize the true God was enough for grace to work in their favor. This detail shows us that divine mercy is not reserved for those with an impeccable record, but for those who open themselves to His lordship, even from a place of weakness. The contrast between justice and grace in this account is an invitation to live in the same way in our relationships. Fulfilling what is just must not exclude the opportunity to extend mercy. In fact, when both combine, we reflect more clearly the character of God, who upholds his law while at the same time opening a way of forgiveness and restoration. Finally, this story reminds us that God's grace always surprises. What seemed like an unforgivable deception was transformed into a testimony of redemption. Israel learned to honor commitments, and the Gibeonites found a place in God's plan. Thus, divine faithfulness was manifested not only in the preservation of the oath, but also in the transformation of lives that seemed destined for destruction. Reinforce your learning with our daily questions on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and X, formerly Twitter, and join the conversation at 2 p.m. and 8 p.m., Sunday through Friday. Your reflections enrich this space of mutual growth.